Hey everybody, this is Marian Cowigowen.
And this is David Owen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, the podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And today I was made to watch Beyond the Mat.
Yes, you were. A look inside the wrestling world. Beyond the Mat is, of course, the 1999 Barry W. Blaustein documentary that spans maybe 2 or 3 years of time, and it documents moments in the career of the wrestling careers of a few folks, the most famous of which probably being Terry Funk, Mick Foley, and Jake the Snake Roberts. It also, because it's focusing on Mick Foley in the late 90s, it also happens to intersect with the sort of birth of the Rock character, the Dwayne Johnson's The Rock character. And so it's an interesting look into this weird carny world of wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a wrestling fan are you, Marian?
Not really. I don't know. I certainly have my exposure since knowing you has, exponentially increased.
That's right.
I don't know. I tolerate it more than I did before, but I'm definitely not as much of a fan as you are in that I don't know all the intricacies of everybody dating back 30 years and and I like when I watch it and I see something really brutal, I cringe and look away, which I think makes me very different than most fans.
No, that's you're supposed to. And that's the stuff that makes you cringe is usually the realest stuff. Yeah. So, I would. So, one of the sort of premises of this movie is that wrestling is like movies. It's a show. It's that it's pageantry. It's spectacle. And I think on some level, my experience of watching anything wrestling related with you can at least get into that part of it. That it's big characters and silly dialogue and men in too little clothes.
Yes. I was thinking, I don't remember what reminded me of this yesterday when we were watching this. Do you remember back when we did the episode on The Running Man and I told you about the villain that I created in 5th grade for a contest, and his name was Hot Wax Harry?
Yeah.
And when he got angry, he would spew melted crayon wax on people.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I think wrestling characters are on that level. They're just so shoehorned into a box. Like, we want to do something that touches on blah blah, and so here's this guy, and if you look at it when it's completed, you are like, wait, what? But it's too late. We've created it.
So that was very true in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, the ones in the 80s that you've told me about.
So this is kind of the transition period. So when you've got wrestling in the mid 90s, this sort of focus on making things more real and authentic happened, and that largely happened because of a couple of wrestlers who jumped ship from then the WWF. So when this movie takes place, it's still the WWF.
Right.
For those who don't know, Vince McMahon had reached an agreement with the World Wildlife Fund, the WWF,
the panda people,
that he would basically wean himself off of using the WWF because the World Wildlife Fund has that imprint, that trademark or whatever. And then he just didn't. And they finally sued him in the late 90s, early 2000s. And one day, if you were watching Monday Night Raw, which is their regular long-running Monday show, the WWF logo appeared, and then the F disappeared, and then it said on the screen, "Get the F out." and they became the WWE World Wrestling Entertainment.
Oh my God. I was when you were about to say that, I was really hoping that a panda came along on screen and just took the F and walked
There's
out.
a great T-shirt that has the World Wildlife Fund logo and their panda on it, but the panda is standing there holding a steel chair. I've wanted that T-shirt.
That's amazing.
Obviously it's some kind of bootleg T-shirt. But,
yes.
So this movie takes place kind of just after that, a few years after that, and that led to the rise of these characters that were more rooted in life. But prior to that, there was a guy named Duke the Dumpster Droese who was a garbage man. There was the Goon, who was a hockey player. There was the Repo Man, who was a repo man.
Well, and you told me about many that were just ethnic stereotypes.
Oh, totally
made into a character.
There were the offensive ethnic stereotypes, and then there were the ones that were just like, what was going on here? There used to be a wrestler named One Man Gang, huge guy, 6'8", 400 pounds, whatever, big guy, biker gang gimmick, and then at some point they were like, look, One Man Gang, you've been around a long time. This just isn't working anymore. What if you became Akeem, the African Dream, the white South African who came out doing jive hand dances in a daishiki?
Oh no!
With a black manager who is named Slick, and who has a wonderful Slick had a wonderful Jerry curl. Who would talk about how you are from Africa, and you would do these little jive hand dances just while Slick is talking on the mic. Akeem is just behind him, just doing jive hands. Oh, horribly offensive. But also, One Man Gang was a great worker, like in the ring. But yeah, it was stuff like that. And this is that transition period. And one of the things that you get in that transition period is that when they talk about Mankind, who is portrayed by Mick Foley, they will interchangeably say Mick Foley. Mm-hmm. Because by that point, Mick, who again is one of the focuses of our documentary, they had done these. So Mankind starts as the answer to The Undertaker. The Undertaker is this big supernatural Undertaker wrestler. He can wave his hands and the lights come up. He puts people in coffins and buries them. His entrance is often he's flanked on either side by druids holding lit torches. It's all this just jumble of supernatural weirdness. And his manager, Paul Bearer, who held the golden urn, which was the source of Undertaker's power, when he was on the outs with the Undertaker, he revealed that he had a sort of man-child named Mankind that was very mentally deranged, that he had been training to come after the Undertaker. And this was portrayed by Mick Foley, who at the time was known for being a character called Cactus Jack. He had wrestled in Japan and all over. And he comes in and he wears this brown suit, like sort of a brown leather top. He has a sort of a leather mask that's reminiscent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, even though Leatherface wore like literally a face. But it gives you those vibes. He comes to the ring. He sits in this shadow of a window and rocks back and forth to this like very calm, soothing music. And then when that stops, he goes crazy and he attacks. So he's portraying this character. And they do an interview, Jim Ross, who is a longtime wrestling announcer. And in the interview, they kind of peel back the veil and they talk about him as Mick Foley. It's sort of an effort to make him a star. Mm-hmm. They talk about him as Mick Foley. They show this image that we see in the movie here of him jumping off his roof when he was like 18. Mm-hmm. We wanted to be a wrestler so bad, and during that interview, he's he's putting on a great performance. And at the end, he freaks out and he attacks Jim Ross. And it basically they introduce you to this man who's playing this character, and it makes him a star. Like after that, people chant for Mick Foley. They showed a lot of his clips from Japan, some of the exploding barbed wire stuff that we also see in this movie. And it just made Mick Foley a star. Well, now they have this guy, Mankind. They have this character, Mankind, being played by this guy who is now arguably more famous than the character. So they just start to blur the lines with him. He's Mankind. He still wears the mask for like 5 more years, but he starts wearing, a button-down shirt, still kind of evoking a Leatherface thing. And it continues to get more and more real until eventually he's just Mick Foley. And that's the transition time that we're in here in this movie. Then I go to all that pain to say all that to try to demonstrate that the beautiful thing about this movie is that it caught this moment in time, this moment where Stone Cold Steve Austin is taking over as the most popular wrestler in the world. Mankind is becoming Mick Foley. Dwayne Johnson. So Rocky Maivia, the character being portrayed by Dwayne Johnson, is becoming The Rock. And it's this wonderful time capsule that I think people would love to see about their favorite thing. Like if your favorite thing is The West Wing, like you would love a behind the scenes documentary, feature length documentary that caught all of that stuff. We're doing a behind the scenes on the first day of the filming the pilot, or whatever. Like, so that's the thing that I love about this movie, and that I think is the thing that makes this movie definitely worth watching. Some of the other characters going through a transition. Terry Funk is going through one of his first retirements. Jake the Snake is battling demons as he does. And then some of these guys are not around anymore. They do a short piece on China. They do a short piece on Darren Drozdoff, New Jack. These guys aren't around anymore. And they're also capturing a moment in their careers. And they're also capturing this moment in the trajectory of the wrestling promotion ECW, which is having its first pay-per-view. ECW was this upstart Philadelphia promotion that like took everything that the sort of realism that was being injected into the mainstream wrestling promotions, which at the time the mainstream wrestling promotions were WCW, World Championship Wrestling, owned by Ted Turner, and the WWF, owned by Vince McMahon. And they were the two national promotions. ECW was coming up as this third option, and while WCW and WWF were doing these sort of added realism things, ECW was doing the stuff where you were like, this, like, I don't think these fans know this isn't real. I don't think these wrestlers know this isn't real. Like, this is some crazy shit. And to see all of those moments contained in a movie like this, even at the time, it was amazing. When this came out in 99, some of this stuff was a couple years old. So yeah, this movie is like a wrestling fan's dream. So if you're a wrestling fan, yeah, absolutely watch Beyond the Mat, because if you haven't seen it, because yeah, it is a beautiful time capsule of this time in wrestling.
On the other hand, though, I think if you are not a wrestling fan, you're not going to come away with an understanding of how wrestling as a phenomenon came to be, or why people like it so much, or, it's just sort of a bunch of interviews and personality studies. And I would kind of like to understand, I don't know, like I sort of understand the appeal just from knowing you for 20 plus years and, but it's just, I don't know. I don't understand the appeal of watching somebody get bloodied. I get the pageantry and everything. I don't know. I don't quite have a handle on it, and I would like to have gotten one from the movie, but that's not what it's about. So
yeah, no, yeah, it's not what it's about. So Blaustein, Barry W.
That's such a great name, by the way. I kept thinking of the Bee in the Bee movie. I think he's Barry B. Benson or something, but I kept thinking of that. So this guy is a little bit of a nerd too. Oh yeah. So it's similar to the Jerry Seinfeld.
Yes. He is a screenwriter, most known for frequently collaborating with Eddie Murphy.
Oh,
this guy wrote Coming to America.
What?
Nutty Professor. Like I think he was an off and on writer, or certainly must have created something for Saturday Night Live, because he has credits for Saturday Night Live.
Is he responsible for, what is it, the Klumps?
He was given a story and screenplay credit on. The
that's
Klumps.
a spin-off from the Nutty Professor.
Well, so there's the Nutty Professor to the Klumps, and then I think there's a Klumps movie.
I never saw any of the Nutty Professor movies.
I don't see him on the Klumps. The most recent thing he has a writing credit on is Coming to America 2. Yeah. So let's see. So at the time he made this, he was coming off of this string of stuff. He wrote everything but the best Police Academy.
Okay.
So he wrote 2 through 5 of the Police Academies, then Coming to America, then Boomerang, the Eddie Murphy movie.
Okay.
Then The Nutty Professor, and then he did this.
Okay.
And this is basically his only real directing that I can see. And I don't think he's on here as a personality. I don't know that was the best choice, but it's the easiest gateway to get people in, because he's essentially telling his story of like, I wanted to know what made these guys tick.
Yeah, although I don't think he's enough of a character to really shape it effectively. But
yeah, he's very passive in his involvement.
I'm not even sure. Do we see him face on?
Oh yeah. There's a pan in the beginning. He's watching. You see him from behind watching, and then there's a pan around him, and also you see him several times when he greets New Jack at the airport and says the great line, "None of my friends have any justifiable homicides, let alone 4." You see him several times.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a good structure to kind of. I feel like this guy went out and didn't know what he was going to do. And he probably started by filming the trainees, Tony Jones, Mike Modest. And then at some point, he probably filmed some of the Terry Funk stuff and the ECW stuff. And then that probably connected him to WWF. And he gets a lot of access to WWF. And then WWF was not super happy with the finished product. So they kind of disavowed it. But a lot of the footage that he gets, he only gets because he's in the good graces of WWF when he's making it. But yeah, and then I think he sat down with all this footage and was like, how do I? And then he did the Jake the Snake stuff at some point. He's like, how do I put all this together? Well, I've got to be a character in it. I've got to be the through line.
Yeah.
I've got to be, the skeleton in the anthology series where we keep coming back to the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah.
Or the Frankenstein's monster creator or whatever.
Yeah. I was skimming the Wikipedia page and there were some quotes from reviews of it, and somebody said something along the lines of, this is less a structured story and more just a compilation of really interesting clips.
Yeah.
Which I sort of agree with. And sometimes, I mean, like, wrestling as a subject is way too broad and way too complex to cover in a 90, 120 minute documentary. So I might have quibbles with the story structure, but it would be hard to narrow it down.
It really is just a moment in time. It's this 97 to 99, sort of 98 moment in time that he managed to capture. He had access to a few different, things, and managed to kind of hook them all together with this weird structure of him being a wrestling fan.
Okay. Keeping in mind that we have, if our analytics are any indication, we have a lot of listeners who are not from the U.S.
Yeah.
And I know wrestling is a global phenomenon, but I would say this kind of wrestling is mostly the U.S. Can you tell me in like a sentence, I know it's hard for you, but so difficult. What do you like about wrestling?
I think largely I've already said it. So for me, it's nostalgic because I watched it as a kid.
With who? With your dad?
With my mom.
Yeah. Oh, your mom. Okay.
Yeah, my mom's second husband. My mom, but also my mom's second husband were big wrestling fans. So we went to a lot of matches in Greensboro, which was a hotbed for Jim Crockett Productions. And yeah, it's that. It gets the hooks in you, right? My most vivid memory of wrestling is being at the Greensboro Coliseum. I know this is more than a sentence. Being at the Greensboro Coliseum and watching, I believe it's Starrcade 87. I think so. And there is an I Quit match, which is apropos because there's an I Quit match in this movie as well. There's an I Quit match between Magnum TA, who is this beefcake of a wrestler who looks like a bit like Magnum PI.
Yes.
And was my mom's favorite wrestler at the time. And Tully Blanchard, who was a bad guy wrestler who was a part of the Four Horsemen, which were Ric Flair's running buddies.
Okay.
Right. They're having an I Quit match over, I believe, the United States title. And they are in an enclosed cage because there's been so much interference. Or they're in a cage. I don't know if it had a top or not. I don't think it had a top. They're in a cage because there's been so much outside interference. Because when you fight one member of the Four Horsemen, you fight them all.
Yeah.
And this was a thing that Dusty Rhodes had gone through fighting Ric Flair. And so they're in a cage to prevent any interference. And they're going back and forth. And there's a mic in the ring with the ref. And, and they just keep asking, you have the guy in a headlock, ask him. And then the ref puts and he goes, no.
Okay.
Do you quit? Do you quit? No. And I'm sitting here, 7 years old. And the way this match ends is, I don't know if it wasn't woman, but there was always a female valet in a sequin gown.
Okay.
And Tully Blanchard had one. She throws in a wooden chair.
Okay.
And Tully gets it and he's wearing out Magnum with it for a bit. Then Magnum gets it and he breaks the chair and he has a splintered piece of the chair and he's got Tully Blanchard's head held in his arms and he's grinding this piece of splintered wood into Tully Blanchard's head. Ask him. And Tully quits. And it's this vivid memory. And that's the moment that I was hooked.
Mm-hmm.
That contest of man versus man and what the lengths that someone would go to win the match and the realism that felt, it felt like Tully Blanchard was going to die if he didn't say I quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of the thing that hooked me. And then from there, wrestling got weird after that. You started having, Sting, who was this California surfer dude with a blonde flat top with face paint, and you had the Great Muta, who was this Asian wrestler with who did crazy moves, and it just kind of got crazy as I got older, and then I encountered stuff, Hulk Hogan and all these other over the top characters, Ultimate Warrior, and it just kept at the right moment in time giving me the right thing to string me along.
Mm-hmm.
Like a drug dealer who keeps switching, you think that pot was good. Wait till you try this, LSD or whatever. And it just every step along the way. And then when I was, 16, here are these guys who are like, hey, coming out and doing these realistic things. And then when I'm starting to get into the workforce and I hate my boss, here's Stone Cold giving the double bird to his boss on live television.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was always at the right, it was evolving. I guess it evolved with me as I aged.
Yeah.
When I was young, it was dangerous and it felt real. And then as I got into my early teens, it was fun and over the top and silly. There was Doink the Clown, fighting the Repo Man who literally wore a criminal mask and skulked around the outside looking for things to repossess
and wore black and white stripes.
No, he wore like a gray outfit. For some reason, the Repo Man wore a gray outfit with a tire track across it, as if he had been run over by a car he was attempting to repossess.
Okay.
And Kona Crush, the Hawaiian wrestler, and
Yeah.
Atom Bomb, the wrestler who had been, exposed to nuclear radiation,
Lord. This is
and
all
Glacier, the ninja who could make it snow in the arena, and it just happened at the right age, and it's something you can't recreate. Like, I don't think I could show our son wrestling. I don't think I could have shown him wrestling at 7 and 10 and 12 and 15, and it evolved with him like that.
Yeah. Well,
so it really was just perfect timing for me.
Yeah. Well, I would guess that a lot of the things that appealed to you at different ages were still there the whole time. It was just you picked them out.
Oh yeah, no. In the 90s, the wrestling got dangerous again, like it was when I was a kid. You know, it felt real. It felt like, man, like I don't think Stone Cold's like he's filling up Vince McMahon's Corvette with concrete. I don't think he's allowed to do that.
Yeah. But the whole, so you say the man versus man thing. I can kind of get that a little bit because I feel some of that when I watch football.
Yeah.
The idea of grown men bashing each other and running into each other and pulling them down on the ground and risking concussions and all these things is ridiculous. But there is particularly like, and they're wearing these tiny little pants and just, you know,
these outfits.
But there is something about the music and the, you know, the big muscular men and all the ethos and this is even true when it's high school boys. Like I find myself getting amped up when we watch high school games. Our kid is in the marching band, so we're there to see him, and the game happens in the, you know, before and after the halftime show.
Yeah.
And I'm like, these are scrawny little 16-year-old boys. These are not gladiators. These are not men. These are not, you know, physically dominant. Well, some of them are, but it's still, it's the gladiatorial thing. And the pageantry, and, you know, and then if I think about it too much, then I get a little grossed out at treating teenage boys like gladiators and like they are more powerful than they are, because I think that just leads to bad things for their later development, particularly when you have a whole squad of girls cheering for that, you know. But anyway, that's a whole other podcast. But I get the gladiatorial appeal and the pageantry and all this stuff. I have the sense that wrestling fandom is largely a Southern thing, mostly because I didn't know a whole lot about it until I moved down here. I do know people from other parts of the country who are wrestling fans, but I didn't experience it as much. So how correct am I on that?
So WCW was based out of Georgia. WWF is a New York, Connecticut thing. Wrestling, and we talked about this briefly, it was territorial. They had these agreed upon territories. You know, I'm Jim Crockett, and I run shows in Charlotte and Greensboro and Columbia, South Carolina, and, you know, and I'm Vince McMahon Sr., and I run shows at Madison Square Garden in New York City, and I run shows in, you know, Hartford, Connecticut, and all these, like, and you don't, you know, Jim Crockett, you don't run a show, you don't dare run a show in Albany because that's my territory, and I won't run a show in Charlotte because that's your territory. Okay, we agree. And it was these gentlemen's agreements. And I don't know what the big, so it was huge in Texas. The Von Erichs, the Iron Claw movie that just came out last year. The Von Erichs, it was huge in Texas. It was big in Oregon. I don't know that there was a big deal promotion in Illinois, Indiana. I'm sure there definitely were promotions, but the tendrils of wrestling, yes, they largely are Southern. Even though Vince McMahon effectively, quote unquote, won out, he ended up purchasing WCW and ECW. And so for a time, they were the only national game in town. Now there's AEW, and there's another one called TNA.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is, even though Vince McMahon won out, so much of that, Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes, Sting, these guys, these are like on the Mount Rushmore. And even guys like The Undertaker, Mark Calloway, used to be Mean Mark Callis, and he wrestled in the Carolinas and in Georgia and all these places. So all these guys that fed into I think the AWA was Midwestern. Anyway, that fed into Vince McMahon's success came from the South. And this carny attitude of wrestling I feel like is a very at home in the South kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it has unmistakable roots, even if the biggest wrestling company in the world is Yankee.
Yeah.
It has these undeniable Southern roots.
Yeah. Well, it feels similar to NASCAR, where, I mean, there's tracks in New Hampshire and various other places, and but NASCAR, I think, is more explicit about where the evolution of the sport. It started as people souping up their cars to hide liquor and escape prohibition agents, and and I've not ever heard that evolution with wrestling.
Yeah,
but knowing that history of NASCAR makes me respect it a little bit more, even though it's personally not my thing at all, to know that it evolved from a real need, sort of.
Yeah.
Being able to see a path and not just it was created out of whole cloth. Yeah. But the other thing, and this is not fair, but my main associations with wrestling before I met you were this guy that I went to grade school with, who was just, I mean, imagine the kind of person who would just piss me off.
Oh, yeah.
Now, but also at age like 10, 11, when I was just sort of prissy. He was a big fan of wrestling. And I remember it being a big deal at the time of whether it was real or not.
Yeah, it's in the 90s. There was
this was like late 80s, early 90s.
Early 90s, yeah.
And it was like a poorly kept secret.
I would say by the 90s it was a poorly kept secret. Yeah. It was still pretty well guarded in the 80s. But yeah, there were a lot of people by that point in the 80s, saying, oh, it's fake, it's fake.
Yeah. But I think though fake doesn't really describe it. I think choreographed,
scripted,
or rehearsed or I mean, like, because there's real blood and real injuries, and they're really doing stuff, and it's not CGI. It's
closer to stunt work than a stage play. Like it's not just that they're, I mean, there's the concept is called working, right? You throw a punch and it's worked. One of the things you'll do is not clench your fist. If you leave a little space, it looks like you made a fist. You leave a little space. When that hits, and I'm hitting myself, you can hear it.
Yeah.
Your hand isn't clenched, so it's not this bludgeon. It's more of a cushioned. And it hits, but it's
you're not going to break a bone.
You're not going to break a bone. Yeah. And there's work. You work everything. You work a kick. You work a slam. When you do a body slam, the most basic move where you cooperate with your opponent, they post their weight on your thigh. You pick them up, you put your hand on the back of their neck, so they're held up on your shoulder, their back is facing upward, their chest is facing down. They're on your one hand is between their legs, and they've got a hand on your thigh kind of balancing there. You put your hand on the back of their neck, and when you push them over to slam them on their back, you are cupping their head, making sure that it doesn't slam on the mat. You're doing everything you can. So it's a worked shoot is what shoot is when something's real. The stuff they're doing is real. You can't fake the impact. These rings are not trampolines.
Right.
It's a big metal spring in the center with plywood on top, and then the thinnest layer of foam you've ever seen. And that's it. They're getting slammed effectively on wood. There is give to it, but it's not a trampoline.
It's not, well, and it's, you said shoot and worked, and frequently you will tell me, in wrestling we call this blah, 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 blah. And you've said carny a couple times.
Oh, super.
It really, it feels like a mix of Barnum and Bailey and a sport and a soap opera.
Yeah, exactly. And that's if I were to be forced to answer you with one question, that's that one sentence, that's the answer, right? It's soap operas for men, where instead of when you walk in on your lover, you immediately challenge the person to a fight. And so many of the story, the storylines have been about, the affection of a woman, the jealousy, a lot of tag teams break up because one guy is getting more attention than the other, and these sorts of things. But when you talk about the roots of NASCAR, the roots of wrestling are in the carnival business. They would come to your town. and they would have their champion, and he might be wearing, you know, fancy satin robes or whatever, and they would say to the crowd, you know, 2 bits to any man who can pin, you know, Crusher here.
Yeah.
And Crusher would then proceed to just use probably a legit knowledge of amateur wrestling to pummel this local. Yeah. And if there wasn't a local brave enough, there was a plant in the audience,
right,
who was, you know, dressed up like the locals and would get on the stage, you know, get in the ring and get everybody behind him, and he would he's gonna do it, and then ultimately the wrestler would win.
Mm-hmm.
That's working a crowd, right? There all these terms. Kayfabe is that veil of realness that is left over it. You know, there was this thing about breaking kayfabe. Kayfabe is you never say that it's not real. You know, if you're a wrestler and you do an interview and someone is like, oh, and then you kind of you fell off the ring, the side of the ring there, and it looked like you kind of tweaked your knee. You don't say, well, yeah, because he was supposed to catch me.
Yeah.
You say, yeah, that damn guy moved out of the way at the last second. You know, you don't, like, when there's a blown spot. The individual moments in a match are called spots. I'm going to pick you up and slam you and then drop an elbow on you. That's a spot. There's a blown spot. You don't say, well, yeah, he didn't do what he was supposed to do. You know, I told him it was shoot him off the ropes and he's supposed to duck the clothesline. He didn't duck it.
Yeah.
So it looked real awkward when we bumped into each other. You know, you say, oh, that bastard tried to, you know, you keep that no matter what. You keep that kayfabe. And that was what started happening in the 90s. Vince McMahon specifically started to kind of say, hey, you know what? They had this big steroid trial where a lot of stuff came out, and Vince McMahon basically saw the writing on the wall of saying, like, look, we can't pretend anymore. What we can do is we can start to ease people into this idea that, like, we're not going to keep it a secret.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kayfabe for me was broken as a kid. Even though I didn't really understand what I was seeing, but now looking back, I do. So one of the things was Ric Flair would always arrive to the Greensboro Coliseum in a white stretch limousine. And there was a gas station that was near the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
And we were at that gas station, and I was like 7, 8 years old. And we're like, oh, it's Ric Flair's. And at the time, Ric Flair was mortal enemies. Like, these guys are trying to murder each other with, like, railroad spikes in the ring and, like, beating each other with chairs. 2 guys, Dusty Rhodes and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Yeah.
And the door to the limo opens up, and Dusty Rhodes and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat get out of the limo, get into a rental car that is parked nearby, and they drive off. And then Ric Flair gets out of the limo, and I'm like, okay. And, you know, that was probably them just being sloppy. Like, that's not something they should have been doing to preserve kayfabe. But then for me, I was just like, why was Ricky the Dragon and Dusty Rhodes in the limo with the, and, you know, looking back on that years later, I'm like, oh, right. They were talking about, because at the time, Dusty Rhodes was the booker, who is the guy who sets the matches and determines the winners. And Ric Flair was having a match that night with Ricky Steamboat. They were in the limo talking about, you know, and the thing was, they probably rented the limo just for long enough. You know, they probably all drove up in that other car and then got in the limo for a minute, and then, you know, and then the limo drives off and takes Ric Flair to the arena. So it's in the 90s, they started to peel that back to the point where it eventually they embraced it by becoming World Wrestling Entertainment. So it's the journey of wrestling, and that's not something that this movie's necessarily interested in telling.
Yes, we should get back to this actual movie.
Yes. So let's just run through. We don't have a ton of time left for the amount of things I would want to talk about, but let's just run through the.
Honey, we could broadcast for 20 hours.
Yeah. Oh no. Of course. And let's just talk about some of the guys that are in this, and if you have any questions about them or thoughts on them. We'll start with one of the first guys we see, which is Darren Drozdoff, who is they note is an ex-football player who can throw up on command.
Yeah, that's
And he's known for this even in the NFL. Like you can find stories on him doing this in the NFL, in the locker room and stuff, and in college.
That was when I started to think about Hot Wax Harry.
Yeah,
like that's just a bad gimmick.
Droz is a real heavy metal kind of dude. He's got a mohawk. He's got tattoos, and
they're tongue piercing.
They had tongue piercing.
I haven't seen one of those in a long time.
It was just a perfect time for it. And he is coming along, and they're going to put him at the time with the Road Warriors, who are this famous tag team who wear spiked football shoulder pads with big metal spikes on them and face paint, and they have crazy mohawks and stuff. And the plan is eventually to put him with them, and they do for a time. But eventually he's out on his own, and he's just Droz, and he has not a lot of success. And eventually, and they say this right at the end of the movie, because right around the time this movie finished editing and stuff, he is injured in a match and breaks his neck. So there's a move called a power bomb where you take your opponent, you bend them over, and you put their head between your legs. Then you grab them about the waist and pick them up until they're effectively sitting on your shoulders.
Yeah,
they are facing the opposite way you are.
Yeah,
and you hold them. You've got them up, and you slam them down on the mat, flat on their back.
Yeah.
It's a pretty safe move in general.
Except when it's not.
Well, except when you run before you do it. And there's a wrestler named D'Lo Brown whose specialty was a running power bomb. So he'd pick you up near one of the corners, and he'd get you up, and then he would run 3 or 4 steps, and he would jump with you, and he would land in a seated position, and you would be slammed between his legs with a power bomb. Well, during that run, something happens. Droz gets off balance, falls, breaks his neck. And he's paralyzed for the rest of his life. And they did pretty good by Droz, I would say, overall. I think they contributed a lot to his health care. They kept him on as a writer for the website. He had a reoccurring column on WWE.com. And he died a few years ago. But yeah, he's one of those guys. It seems like they mostly did right by him. You hear a lot of these wrestlers that get injured, they don't really do right by him. And it seems like they mostly did.
Yeah. That just occurred to me. So, last year, summer 24, Netflix came out with this documentary series about the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. And I was fascinated and horrified by it. And it is definitely worth watching, even if you think, I don't like cheerleaders. No, it's worth watching just as like social commentary.
Yeah.
But they talk about some of the moves that they do that really take their toll on your body over time. There's one where they jump up and they go immediately into a split. Well, that kills your hips after a while. And one of the former cheerleaders had just had surgery on her hips or her knee or something, and just like getting around on crutches for a while. And I was like, and NFL cheerleaders are notoriously underpaid, and they're independent contractors, I think.
Yeah.
So no health insurance.
Same as wrestlers,
and no workers' comp. Yeah. So yeah, for you got injured doing work for this company, but you're not a full-time employee, so they have no responsibility to reimburse you for the injuries. I thought that is shitty, especially when you compare cheerleaders to football players who are paid millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And you could say, oh, well, they're just cheerleaders. Okay, but this is specialized work and takes skill and talent and a lot of practice and et cetera, and wrestling the same thing. And if you are a low-level wrestler, you're probably making 40, 50K a year.
It depends. I think the lowest paid wrestler right now is an NXT wrestler. NXT is WWE's farm system. It's a show they put on. They do a show. I think it's on USA, or it was. I think the minimum contract for a performer who's actually performing on television, not a trainee who's just in the farm system but not performing on television, is $75K.
Yeah. Which is, more than I make, but if you are paralyzed, that's nothing.
Right. And they have attempted to unionize wrestling over the years. It is always squashed Jesse Ventura, who is very briefly in this movie, was leading a unionization attempt. And when in this movie, one of the things he says is that he went out on top. One of the reasons he went out on top was because he was trying to unionize the boys, and Vince McMahon did not like that. Essentially, Jesse Ventura was replaced by Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was Jesse Ventura kind of copped the whole deal of a wrestler named Superstar Billy Graham, and then Hulk Hogan kind of copped the whole deal of Jesse Ventura.
Okay.
And essentially, Jesse Ventura was replaced on top by Hulk Hogan by Vince McMahon because Hulk Hogan didn't care about unionizing.
Shocking.
It's been over the years. But so the thing that has happened also over the years is PR. These people have gotten presences outside of the WWF. There was a time where you didn't know anybody's name. There's this famous instance where these two wrestlers, Razor Ramon and Diesel, they go from WWF to WCW, and Razor Ramon shows up first, and Razor Ramon is Tony Montana. What's the Scarface? It's like a Scarface gimmick, right?
Okay, yeah.
And he does the whole thing, and he's got the grease back hair. He shows up in WCW out of nowhere, and he comes in the ring and he goes, "You know who I am, and you know where I'm from." And then they're like, "That's Scott Hall. That's Scott Hall," because they can't say Razor Ramon because that's trademark of WWF.
Right.
That's Scott Hall, and all of a sudden this guy has a real name.
Yeah.
And then the next week, here comes Diesel, and that's Kevin Nash, But prior to that, you didn't know Terry Bollea was Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
You didn't know Steve Borden was Sting, or Ric Flair's name is actually Ric Flair, but it's not spelled the same. It's more ethnic. I don't even know what that means. So yeah, it became this thing of now these wrestlers have lives outside of the ring and personalities, and when one of them's hurt, and all of a sudden they're like on their social media, like, yeah, they released me. I broke my knee and they released me.
Yeah.
So now the WWE has just sort of had to be a little bit better about taking care of these guys.
Yeah.
They do some shitty stuff. Like now, if you get injured, they're more likely to keep you, but they've written clauses into the contract of like, okay, you're contracted for a year. You got injured for 6 months. It's been a year, but because you were injured for 6 months, you owe me 6 months.
Yeah.
So your contract gets extended by the injury time. So, we paid for your stuff. We helped you recover.
Yeah.
And now all we ask in return is that you give us the 6 months that you robbed us of rightly under the contract.
Oh,
yeah. So they did pretty right by draws. I'm trying to do some of the quick ones first. New Jack. What were your impressions of New Jack?
That was the guy with Parrot, right?
No, that's Coco Beware.
Okay.
New Jack was the guy who they brought in to do the script reading for Justifiable Homicides.
Yeah. Oh God! And when they were saying, "Oh yeah, I see some possibilities," like, no, you don't.
It was very. And New Jack, I think he may have gotten like a thug role in a couple of, a henchman role in a couple of things, but yeah, it didn't go anywhere.
I mean, when your name is New Jack and you're telling everybody you've been in prison and you have just
Jerome has 4 justifiable.
Well, okay, but
yes, well,
you're kind of typecasting yourself.
Also, just to fill you in on some of New Jack's stuff, New Jack's a piece of shit. New Jack's also dead. Piece of shit. New Jack tried to kill someone in a match.
Oh, okay.
So New Jack's biggest thing is he used to do these high falls. He would get up on this, and he was in ECW. He'd get up on this scaffolding, pretty high, and he'd fall down onto these tables with somebody, without somebody, whatever. So he's wrestling this guy named Vic Grimes, who's this big, like 400-pound guy, 350, big dude. And they're up on top of the scaffold, and Vic gets cold feet. And he doesn't want to go. And Jack is like, "We're going." And he pulls him with him. And in the way that they fall, Vic ends up landing on New Jack's head. And New Jack loses partial vision in one eye. And basically he decided he's going to kill Vic Grimes.
Oh God.
So years later, they are wrestling in a different promotion, and they're doing this match where a scaffold is built over the ring.
Yes.
And the ring is filled with tables, like stacked, these, the wrestling tables, stacked like 10 feet high, table on table on table. And the idea is you win when you throw your opponent off of the scaffolding and through the tables below.
Okay.
And scaffolding matches are these old school things in wrestling that are super dangerous. People have Jim Cornette, one of the guys who was in this, blew out both of his knees in a scaffold match that I actually witnessed in person. And New Jack has decided he's going to kill Vic, and so he brings a taser with him. And this is shoot. This is 100% not. And so they're up on top of the scaffold, and he keeps tasing Vic and until he basically is incapacitated. And then he throws him off the scaffolding, trying to throw him to miss the ring completely and land on the floor.
You guys should see my face right now.
Yeah, I'll show you the clip of this.
Oh, and I don't think I want to see it.
Vic ends up landing on the ring ropes and just like flopping and like he clips a table and lands on the ring ropes. Legit tried to kill him. There was another incident where a wrestler he was on the independent circuit, some show in a gym with 10 or 15 people, and a wrestler was giving him guff backstage, like trying to big time him, I'm going to do this move and I'm going to do that move. And, like it's just kind of against the etiquette. Mm-hmm. So they're in the match. He gets him in a hold, reaches down in his boot, pulls out a straight razor, and just starts slashing the guy. Just slash and slash and slash the guy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So there's no psychological testing involved.
Yeah, no. New Jack is a piece of shit. There was also an incident in ECW, early ECW days, that almost derailed ECW completely, known as the Mass Transit incident, where it's a tag team match and a guy can't show. And this local performer named Mass Transit, whose gimmick is he's a bus driver. So he wears like a bus driver uniform. Big dude, 6 foot, 350 pounds or whatever. Okay. And he's saying he's trained. He's telling them where he trained. I'm good to go. And they're like, okay, well, we don't really have a choice. And we just need somebody for New Jack to kind of beat up a little bit, hit in the head with a toaster or something. And the kid can't work. And they get in the match. He can't work. And New Jack just starts beating the shit out of him. And this is before he straight razored the other guy, pulls out a scalpel and just slices the kid's forehead all the way across. Turns out he's 16, and they just beat the shit out of him for like 10 minutes.
Oh my God.
Goes to the hospital. Kid is fine. Like kid is like all into it, like, yes, doesn't want to press charges or anything.
Yeah.
And that was a huge controversy. But yeah, just a dangerous guy to work with. Real piece of shit. And geez. Yes, 4 justifiable homicides, all that other shit.
Yeah.
China. I feel like that's a sex segment that I want your thoughts on.
Oh, well.
China, if you don't know, is a muscular bodybuilder, female wrestler.
Yeah.
And for a time she dated Triple H. Triple H is now effectively the booker or the guy in charge of WWE.
So my main impressions of China come from when she was on was it The Surreal Life? Something like celebrity reality show. And she was not doing well mentally.
Yes.
And then she died of, I don't know, was it an overdose?
Something like
I don't know, something. So I feel bad for her mostly. And in this,
this is her essentially entering into her peak time.
Well, yes, but she talked about how, her mom told her she wasn't feminine.
Yeah.
And she was like, I don't know, I think I'm incredibly feminine, but that kind of thing, like that leaves a mark. And, and like she went and got jaw feminization and breast implants and all that. Like, I imagine the movie didn't touch on this, but I imagine for women in wrestling, it's a very difficult tightrope to walk because you've got to be strong, but you've also got to be sexy. But it's because men are the audience and you need to appeal to them.
Oh yeah, yeah, and China endured all that stuff. A chance of man,
and there was drugs and
drugs and the whole thing. Like she. I mean, I think the through line is, with the exception of maybe Mick Foley, nobody in this documentary has a easy go of it. And Mick being the guy that you think would be, again, he makes this comment that Mick is like the nicest guy, the most normal guy of them all. He's the guy you think would be the craziest because he portrays these deranged characters, but it turns out like he's got a wife and 2 kids and is, kind of idyllic suburban life outside of the ring.
Yeah.
And then he goes to work and people bash him with chairs and throw him off tall structures and stuff. Yeah. So it is like these people are not necessarily well adjusted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess your question is if you go to work and you let people beat you with chairs, is there inherently some maladjustment there? What I don't. I
think there is. It's what attracts someone to that.
Yeah.
But also, I think you have to have a little bit of crazy to get through it because the actual training for wrestling is pretty intense. So speaking of seemingly well adjusted, Terry Funk is kind of one of the faces in this. Not kind of, he is. What did you think of the Funk clan? All the folks around him, because Terry Funk this movie just kind of makes him out when he's not in the ring to just be like this sort of happy granddad.
Yeah. It was. So there's a scene at his daughter's wedding, and it was so 90s. Just like she's doing her own makeup and eyeshadow with that little foam thing, and I watch a lot of makeup videos on Instagram, and so I get served a lot of bridal makeup stuff. And like now, I think the thing to do for a lot of people is you hire a makeup artist, and they do. Anyway, so like a bride doing her own makeup with Maybelline on a foam applicator was just like, oh, that's so 90s. I can't stand it, and the hair and all that other stuff. I don't know. It was. Yeah, so his wife and his daughters are watching him and didn't seem quite as troubled as Mick Foley's wife and kids were. Also, now, that was a much bloodier thing.
But you're also 20 years in.
Well, right, right. But also then Terry Funk is in his 50s and a little more fragile than Mick Foley. So it was just... And I just found myself thinking, like, the arc of the family, how does that work? Because there was a point when the camera's on Funk's daughter and he does something good. I don't remember if he was declared the winner or he pinned somebody or whatever, and she does a cheer and it looks authentic. And I was like, oh, well, like, do you know in advance who's going to win, how it's going to go? Or does he not tell anybody? How does that work?
Yeah. And usually they don't tell anybody, in part because oftentimes they want that family reaction.
Yeah.
They want to be able to sweep the camera over like, Terry Funk's daughter.
Yeah.
And it's easier if you just don't say like, hey, you need to act surprised when I win.
Yeah.
But also the thing about the Funk stuff is he's from a wrestling family.
Yeah.
His brother, Dory Funk Jr., wrestled till the day he died, I think. She married into that, like the wife, right? She married into him already being on top because in the territory days, Funk was huge. So when they met, he was probably already, known. And when Foley met his wife, he was already a wrestler, but he was not on top in that way. And so when his kids were born, he was already a wrestler, but not on top. And I think probably Funk just doesn't let his kids see his family see a lot of the stuff he does.
That seems wise. I was a little horrified that the Foley kids were there.
We'll talk about that in its time. I just don't want to spoil. I feel like that's our grand finale.
Oh, all right.
Because that's the thing I think that's the most controversial about this. Yeah. Thank you for teasing that.
Yeah.
You are a tease.
Yeah.
But yeah, Funk is a legendary wrestler who wrestled all over the territory days. He had famous matches with Ric Flair. He did a short stint in WWF as Chainsaw Charlie when Mick Foley brought back his Cactus Jack persona. Cactus Jack needs a partner. Who would be Cactus Jack's partner? Chainsaw Charlie? I don't know. Yeah, but Funk, real legend, did a lot to get ECW off the ground. But yeah, I think the dynamic is great. And seeing him that like he's the king of Amarillo, like he does these ads for the, Chevy dealerships and, Chevy dealers of West Texas. And the thing I love most about Terry Funk is that he has this soft-spoken voice. And he Terry Funk's claim to fame is he's really good at getting sympathy. So a good guy wrestler needs to be beaten on by the bad guy until he has the sympathy of the crowd. And Terry Funk can do this thing where he's getting beaten on and he'll like raise up one hand and go, "You son of a bitch, why are you doing this to me?" And the crowd is just like, no, why do you leave that man alone? And then, Terry Funk is, I don't think there's anything particularly controversial in his section, but yeah, he is a legend. And this is his first of many retirement matches. It lasts a few months. He comes back. He wrestled his last. So this is 98. He says, and this is his first retirement match. His last match was in 2017, and Terry died a couple years ago.
Yeah,
So he wrestled for almost another 10 years after his first retirement match.
Jeez. Yeah, at his daughter's wedding, his wife and the girls are talking about, is he really going to retire? And they're like, I think he's really going to do it. But there didn't seem to be a whole lot of conviction behind it. I'm like, this man.
But basically, he took the time off to get the knee surgery, and then he was back. He was back at it. And Terry never really dumbed down his style either. That was the big thing. He always did that, moonsault where you jump off the top rope and do a flip. He always did the hardcore stuff. He bled in every match.
It was a little, I don't know, sort of almost heartwarming to see. He's what, 50s, 60s?
53 at the time.
And he's bare-chested.
Yeah.
And he's a little flabby.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to care about that. And there's no like, okay, well now my costume's going to involve a tank top. Or,
right. I got to hide my,
And you didn't see him talking about, I got to put on some muscle or anything. And I imagine there's just some, regimen you have to keep up. But the idea of just, it's okay for me to age.
Yeah.
Is women don't experience that.
No.
And I think not even, I don't see wrestling nearly as much as you do, but I don't get the impression that would be allowed for wrestlers today. I can't think of who. I mean, like we just saw, we were watching something and Randy Orton was there, and he's probably about that age, and he's aged.
He's like 48 or something.
But he's like much more.
Oh, he's still got muscle definition.
And how much of that is supplements?
Perhaps. But also Terry Funk comes from a time where bodies were not important.
Yeah.
And wrestlers looked like average guys. And even when you look at somebody like Bruno Sammartino, who was like Vince McMahon Sr.'s guy, he was big, but he had no muscle definition.
Yeah.
But he just looked like he was a big old swole up Popeye guy. Like he looked like Bluto from Popeye.
Yeah.
Like he just walked around real big, no muscle definition at all, but could probably, lift a VW bus.
Yeah.
And Terry Funk is from that time where and the great contrast that you see in this movie is when our next group that we're going to talk about get these trainees get their WWE tryout. Tony, who's maybe 6'2", 250 or whatever. Jim Ross, who is at that time in charge of talent relations. He's basically, he's the guy who would hire these guys. He's like, there's some definition here, work on your shoulders, get your chest a little bigger.
Yeah.
Because at that time, it was about body guys. Even if you look at somebody like Steve Austin, who never really had a six-pack, he had good muscle definition. Never really had a six-pack.
It's that V shape.
He looked muscular.
Yeah.
He had that look. But yeah, there's not a lot of Mick Foley body types. There's not a lot of even Terry Funk body types. Probably the most famous guy who at this moment when we're recording this is the AEW world champion is Samoa Joe. But I also think there's this built-in thing of like, well, he's a Samoan. Of course, he's got some extra weight on him. Even though the sort of current generation of Samoans are a lot more defined.
Because Roman Reigns
is
right?
in that, and The Rock. These guys are all related. Samoa Joe is the one Samoan who is not related to the clan of Samoans that come from the WWF history, Afa and Sika and these guys who sort of all gave birth to all of these Samoan wrestlers that are big now. Samoa Joe is like the only one that isn't from that group who's ever found success in wrestling. But yeah, so the another group we follow is these two trainees and their quote unquote trainer. So Tony Jones, Mike Modest, and Roland Alexander. Roland is the carny ass owner of the organization that is training Mike and Tony, and is just a walking red flag. backwards hat, big jowly double chin that's just covered in,
stubble,
10 o'clock shadow. Little mustache, a double hoop pierced ears,
chomping gum the whole time, which made me think
oversized glasses.
I need to stop chewing gum if that's how I look.
Just greasy looking. Just he is not a guy I would give any money to. No. And even when he's talking to a prospective trainee, he's like, good credit, bad credit, everybody rides.
Really? You think you're ready to put down an investment? Like, never trust anything when they call it investment.
Yeah. But Mike and Tony get a tryout match. It goes okay. And basically there's not a lot to say about these guys other than nothing ever really comes of their careers. They never really do anything. Mike says in the movie, a guy like him would be better suited for Japan. And he does go to Japan a couple of times. I do remember seeing a couple of his matches in Japan. Tony, I think, just kept his job at Visa, and Roland would continue to do his thing for years after that. But yeah, Mike is an interesting case study because he is a guy who's just too small to really be a star. Like he needs to lose about 15 pounds, 20 pounds of muscle. And he would fit in with a sort of high flying wrestler that was popular in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting look inside of these guys training and sort of here's the section of like, hey, it's not all glamorous.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mike and Tony's section is kind of unremarkable, but it is it's interesting to see them behind the scenes sort of critiquing the match.
Yeah.
There's Jim Cornette, who is now he's just a wrestling talking head. He just has opinions on things. But back then he was a manager and a writer with WWE, and Vince McMahon and Jim Ross standing there, watching it, and other wrestlers kind of gathered around watching it. It was cool for a fan to see that.
Or even not a fan, just like it's always nice to see when there's any industry like this, there's more to it than just people jumping around and hitting with chairs. There's some strategy and some planning, and it's interesting to see bits of that emerge.
Oh yeah. And yeah, anytime you get the backstage stuff of WWE, it's this amazing, constantly touring show that just can't stop, and they have perfected touring. I mean, they have there was a period where they had multiple teams going across the country. They had what you call a house show, which is untelevised. So they had a team going and doing house shows. So they're setting those up. They've got a ring. They've got a stage, modest stage set up, lighting and all that stuff. And the wrestlers show up and they do matches for just the local crowds. But it'd be in like medium-sized arenas. Like here, it would be the Bojangles, something that holds 8,000 people versus a 16 or 18 or 20,000 seat arena where they might do their big shows. And then they had a Friday show that filmed on Tuesdays that was touring independent of their Monday night show, which was live every week. I mean, Monday Night Raw has been live every week since like 92 or 3 or something. And it's never missed a show except when it's preempted by the dog show on USA once a year. But it's not on USA anymore, so it doesn't get preempted by the dog show. So like it's the longest continuous running live broadcast.
Did they even do it during COVID?
Yes, but they did. So they basically, like the NBA, they made a bubble.
Yeah.
They had a bubble that they made, and they did no crowd.
Yeah.
They ended up putting up LED screens, and you could sign into like a Zoom meeting with your camera on, and they would show you in the crowd, and you would get a live feed of what was going on, and they would show you.
Gosh.
You'd see just like tons of people's Zoom faces in the crowd.
Geez.
Yeah. So, the Tony and Mike and Roland segment, an interesting look into the business, but yeah. And it makes Roland out to be a real, scumbag. But like not like they don't quite cross the finish line on him being a scumbag, but it's like, you're just like inferring, these guys get paid every week. And then they cut to a thing of Tony going, there's no excuse for not paying somebody.
Yeah.
He only pays you when he says he thinks you have a good match. And then, Roland, like, oh, no, these guys love it. They're getting paid.
And it's like $25.
Yeah. Which is, whatever. I mean, there's 100 and some people coming and they're charging, $5 a piece. How much can you pay the people? But yeah. So yeah, let's finish up here. Our last two are Mick Foley and Jake the Snake. I don't know which one's better to talk about last, but let's go ahead and talk. We'll talk about Jake the Snake. This was the reason that I said this is my like Thanksgiving episode, because of the family dynamic of Jacob the Snakeob.
Wow, so many times I come across fictional characters or real people, and I'm like, I need to call my parents and say thank you for being relatively normal.
Yes.
And this was one of those times. Holy shit.
So I will say, I think most of what he says is true, but Jake is definitely working for this whole thing. Jake the Snake has this promo style where he gets real close to the mic and he talks real low. And in his bad days, like not too long after this, is one of the best wrestling clips. He's doing an interview, and for some modest show that's like actually on pay-per-view or something. In the late 90s, early 2000s, they tried these things where they just brought in a bunch of old wrestlers and were like, hey, it's $20 and you get to see your favorite wrestlers like the Honky Tonk Man and Jake the Snake Roberts and King Kong Bundy and, you know, all this stuff. And he's doing an interview, and he's like, you talk about playing cards. You want to play 21? Well, I got 22. Which is just like the greatest. Like, that means you lose, Jake. That means you lose.
That's not good.
You don't want 22 in a game of 21, Jake. But he's so gone on, you know, crack or whatever. And he comes out and he's just sweating buckets, and there's a fan in the front row. And he grabs her hands and puts them on his nipples. It's one of his lowest points.
And then does he say how she's going to remember this day for the rest of her life? And he says,
no, they would execute the mayor. I could be the mayor of this town. Yeah. They put me in as a dictator mayor.
The delusions of grandeur on this guy.
Yes, absolutely.
Geez.
And I'm sure that is a sort of narcissistic personality disorder, like just 101 kind of thing. But yeah, just to recap, Jake tells us that he was the only reason he was born is because his dad assaulted his mother, who was the 13-year-old daughter of the woman that his dad was dating at the time.
Yes. And then his father says,
and not quickly, but I wish there was like a jump cut, like with the Roland getting paid thing.
Yes.
In my edit of this, jump cut to his dad going, well, Jake was born out of love, and I love him. Like, and no, he wasn't.
My face.
Yes, when he said that,
my jaw was on the floor for most of this segment because WTAF.
Yes, Jake tells us that his marriage fell apart because when you're on the road, you get into basically perverted sex, and then when you come home, you know, he's talking about doing, you know, one at a time and two at a time,
and then two and toys
and two and you two and I just watch, and you come home and try to make love to your wife.
This is not exciting anymore.
Ain't no way, man. Ain't no way. Jake has had a hard life. And of course,
I think everyone who knows Jake has had a hard life too.
Yes, and perhaps the culmination of Jake's story is that he meets with his oldest daughter, who is also a 90s time capsule.
Yes, also has a tongue ring.
Yes, also has a tongue ring.
I kept getting distracted by it. I forgot how when you watch someone talk, you just look at the ring and you're like, how does that work?
Has a very awkward meeting with his daughter where she is nervous and wants to bring a friend, and that immediately sours Jake on the whole thing.
Yes.
They meet for 5 minutes and he leaves. And then the next day he comes to her apartment and they have a sort of a heartfelt. So after he leaves from his daughter, they have a heartfelt thing, and then Jake just goes and buys crack and gets high and doesn't see her again.
She was very mature about the whole thing.
Yes.
And although they said she's a grad student in psychology, and I was like, oh, okay, so the baggage just continues on down the.
And boy, is she! She has a memory book of her dad that's all like, you know, it looks like a prop from Seven. It's just got like scrawls in it, like these are letters from my dad that I cut up, you know. And this is the screen that he views me through. It was very, but like, you know, do whatever you got to do, sister, to deal with your emotions. But it was very sort of Yeah, someone wrote a character who's a grad student in psychology.
Well, and it's also like the 90s were very big into scrapbooks anyway. So it's like when scrapbooking meets dysfunctional family issues, whoa, right there.
Yeah. Jake is just having a hard time in life. He's touring around these small shows where he's the biggest name on the show. And, he's probably making $500 a pop and spending most of that on drugs. They show they show a promoter who's like, oh yeah, Jake called us and he wanted his retainer, and then we were like, sure, yeah, of course, that's guaranteed money. And then he called us back and was like, I'm not showing up unless you bring me some crack.
Yeah,
it's just like, and he talks about, and it's we can laugh about it, but like his life is tragic. Like he talks about. You take you take cocaine and it speeds you up so much you can't think about your problems, and then you're on the road and you can't sleep, so you take the downers and you take the uppers, and he sounds like someone who has just been through the shit.
Well, and like he knows it too. Like there's a point when he's like, and we're at the luxurious Ramada Inn in Emporia, Kansas, or wherever it was, and I was like, okay, you kind of did this to yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I don't have sympathy for you. But...
100%. So yeah, Jake the Snake segment, a wild ride. But the update on Jake is he's doing all right. He's still alive. He's doing all right
now in 2025.
Yeah, he's doing all right. So
wow,
there's a wrestler named Diamond Dallas Page.
Yes,
and Diamond Dallas Page, even when he was a wrestler, really liked yoga.
Yes, I remember talking with you about
this. So
this.
DDP liked yoga because DDP didn't get his start until he was in his late 30s.
Okay.
So he was a manager.
Okay.
And he was like a Vegas style thing. That's why he's Diamond Dallas Page. He did a kind of a Vegas style gimmick. And at some point they were like, we don't want you as manager anymore. And he's like, well, I'm a trained wrestler. Can I do that? So he didn't really start in wrestling until his late 30s, and he had his quote unquote run in his 40s. And one of the things he figured out is that in order to recover, he got into yoga, and he really liked yoga. And so after he retired, he came up with DDP yoga.
Yes.
And his thing for the last 10 years or so has basically been to find these hard cases like Jake the Snake. He brings them to his house. He has them live with him and puts them through the paces of DDP yoga and like detoxes them. And he has had several success stories.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's like celebrity rehab, except without Dr. Drew.
Yeah, he recently did the boxer, I don't know what you call him, Butterbean. He was this attraction in the 90s, this big, he was in the Tough Man contests, this big, bald, white dude who was just really good at knocking people out. And he kind of had this run of maybe 10 or 15 years where he would just do sort of exhibition type stuff. And he was all, crooked back, barely could walk, and came to DDP and spent, a few months there. And now he's walking around and he's lost 100 pounds. And so DDP just brings these guys here to his house, cuts them off from everything, makes them do yoga every day and eat right and not do drugs. And he has rehabbed like 10 or 15 of these guys.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah, DDP is great.
Can I watch this, or is it all?
Yeah, there's
just
some stuff. There's different videos. The wrestler I mentioned earlier, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall. Scott Hall was a notorious drunk for his whole career. Lost several jobs. Never made it to the top because of his drinking. And DDP got him on the straight and narrow. Unfortunately, Scott died a couple years later. But got him on the straight and narrow. All these different guys. Yeah. So DDP has been has really made good on his short career. He maybe had 5 years on top.
Yeah.
And like 10 or 15 years of being like a low guy and a manager. But yeah, he made good. So Jake is okay. Jake, and he's still doing his. I'm talking low, and I mean it because my cadence is intentional.
And he probably now has grandchildren that he doesn't see.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I do not have an update on the kid situation with him. But yeah, Jake, yes, made a decent recovery and has been okay as far as I know.
I have to admit, I have a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of respect for people who can have an addiction and they still keep going.
Yeah.
And I realize that's like not actually anything to be impressed by. It's a sign of how bad it is. But like, if I get drunk, I'm a mess the next day.
Oh yeah.
I need to physically recover. But
and that's but what you're describing is the cycle. So you're drunk and you're hungover. So the next day you take an upper.
Yeah.
To keep going. You're getting into, and
then it gets worse.
It's not that they drink all night and then get up and do it the next day. They get up and they pop a pill.
Okay.
And then when they're done and their heart is racing at twice the normal rate, they pop a different pill to come down. And then that night they drink, So don't be too proud of them.
No. And I'm not working toward that myself. Good. I do not aspire to that.
We can find some amphetamines if you'd like.
No, thank you.
Diet pills. So we get some classic 80s style diet pills.
Yeah. But it's I'm a mess after one night of drinking. It takes me, I'm in my late 40s. It takes me a good 36 hours to fully recover. So the idea that people are just like, okay, well, lock in, do better. Anyway.
Yeah. We're way over time, but we have to talk about Mick Foley. Our final piece is Mick Foley, and it's kind of the culmination of the movie. And maybe, besides the Jake the Snake stuff, it's possibly the more controversial part of the movie. So they're following Mick, and they get to the Royal Rumble 1999, which is a match where he fights with The Rock in an I Quit match. And for whatever reason, Mick decides to have his family there. Before we get into that, though, did you notice The Rock's outfit?
The little Hawaiian shirt.
No, he's wearing like warm-ups.
Yeah.
Like track pants and a top. Do you want to know why he's wearing that outfit?
No, but he doesn't. Later it was just trunks, and
the continuity is different. They're showing you clips from all over.
I mean, later, like years
in
later.
life, yes. And prior to this, he wore just trunks.
Okay.
His normal outfit is just wrestling trunks and boots.
Okay, tell me why.
He got breast reduction surgery.
Ah.
So as is apparently genetically common amongst Samoans, he had gynecomastia.
Okay.
And just no matter how much he worked out, he just always had a little bit of fat around the nipples, a little bit of puffiness. And he finally got tired of it, and so he got it liposuctioned out. And so for about 3 months or so, he wore this warm-up suit, and didn't really have a lot of regular type matches. Had matches that were like where it wouldn't be like, well, why is he's not wearing his trunks? Had matches like this, which are like kind of street fighty,
Okay.
But that's why he's wearing a top in this, because he had liposuction on them titties.
I mean, sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah, and I mean, it was something that he couldn't change about himself, and it's not like he didn't try.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, you can kind of see it sometimes that he still struggles with it. Every now and then you'll see it, but so I think he's had it done a few times. But yeah, that's just a fun piece of trivia. This time, like, because people are always like, "Hey, you remember that time in 1999 when for no reason Rock wore a tracksuit for like half the year?" Like, yeah, and here's the reason why. So during this match, Foley's family's at ringside, his wife and his 2 kids.
Who are what, 4 and 6?
Something like that, yeah. And they decide in the course of this match to so the whole thing about Mick Foley is that he'll never quit Mankind. He'll never quit because he's been through so much. What could you possibly do to this guy? He's been thrown on a bed of nails. He's been thrown into exploding barbed wire. He's been burned. He lost an ear, half of an ear in Germany to a accident with the ring ropes. He got thrown off the cage. He got thrown through the cage. He had a tooth in his nose. What can you possibly do to this guy to make him say, "I quit"? And so they go into this match where The Rock seems like he's the underdog because Mankind is never going to say, "I quit." Mick Foley's never going to say, "I quit." And at some point in the match, they decide what they're going to do is, or not some point, when they're planning the match, they decide they're going to handcuff Mick, and Rock is going to hit him with a bunch of unprotected chair shots. So one of the things about getting hit in the head with a chair is, you can kind of get your hand up. But also you can kind of just when you're, and Mick Foley talks about this in his book, having your hands pinned behind you, it changes sort of the physiology of your upper body in a way that you don't expect.
Yeah.
And they didn't try this beforehand. So Mick is basically like, when he hit me with the first chair shot when I was handcuffed, it was the most painful chair shot I had ever taken.
I bet.
Because like I couldn't crumple with it. I couldn't kind of take it in the way that I would normally take it because of the stress on my shoulders of my hands being behind my back.
Yeah.
I couldn't like give with it.
Yeah.
The story is they agreed to 5 or 6 and Rock does 11 chair shots. Oof. And Mick already has a big gash on his head from a previous thing that has staples. And of course that opens up and he's just bleeding all over. And the thing they don't show you about that match is the actual ending of that match is Foley basically passed out. Rock holds the mic down and they play a clip of Mick Foley. You kind of hear it earlier where he's like, I will not say I quit.
Yeah.
They play a clip of him saying I quit over the PA, and it's obvious. And they lay the seeds of that because there's a moment where they're backstage and Vince is talking to the announcers and he's like, and maybe you highlight that you don't see his mouth moving. And that was the whole gimmick, right? That Foley never actually said I quit, that they played a clip of it. And the thing about this is that because his kids are there, they are traumatized by seeing this over and, him getting hit over and over and over. They're in tears. It's hard to watch.
Even his wife is and
his wife as well. And she takes the kids out and, and the match ends and then he comes backstage and they do a whole thing. Where he's again, like he's always with the kids. Oh, we're playing. It's not, I'm not hurt.
Well, and I thought even before they show, they're backstage and The Rock comes over and he says something like, hey, I'm your dad's buddy. We're just playing, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I don't think a 4-year-old is going to be able to process that. But nice try.
And so that's possibly the thing. And this is, I don't know that this is confirmed, but this is the story. The original end for that match was supposed to be, and this is the reason that Mick brought his family. The original pitched idea that they didn't end up going with, obviously, was that they would still do the handcuffs and they would do the hitting in the head with the chair. And there would be a point where Mick is at ringside and can see his children crying. Right? Oh. And at that point, he would say, I quit. Because he sees his family, his children crying.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Right, exactly. And I don't know if that was Mick's idea or Vince's or The Rock's or a writer or whoever, but I'm glad they didn't go with that. But I think that was probably the reason that the kids were ever going to be there in the first place, because that was kind of an original idea that they had, right?
Up.
Yeah.
When she got up and she took the kids and she left, I wondered, is that going to throw him off somehow?
Yeah.
And there was it looked like a security guard sort of stopped her. And then she says something and then they cut. And I was like, oh my God, please tell me they're going to let her leave and not be like, no, you have to be here.
And for all I know, because nobody's really confirmed any of this, that was still the plan. And her leaving prematurely messed it up. Because there is this point in that match where you can kind of see Mick is looking for them in the audience.
Yeah.
You can certainly see it in the non-edited version of the match.
Geez. Well, good for her if that was the case, because that was enough trauma. Oh, geez.
Yeah. Oh. Can we? And I said this last night. I have to give some respect to Barry for not focusing on the fact that Mick has a smoking hot wife and going like, how did this troll get this hot wife? Because that's like the first thing anybody does when they see Mick Foley's wife.
He's not a troll. It's just he needs some better grooming habits and a fake tooth. And he seems like a nice guy.
Oh, sure.
He seems kind of slow to me, but when you've taken that many hits to the head, it's...
Yeah, the reality is he's not. He's written like 4 books with no ghostwriter and is very articulate. But yeah, he probably was suffering some issues from all that head trauma. But I appreciate Barry for not delving into that. Like, how did this happen? Like, Mick, tell me how could you possibly score this babe?
He must be very charming when he has all his teeth.
I think he is, yeah. But so this ends up the scene. Barry is basically bothered by the footage as he's editing it, and brings it to the Foleys. And Mick is taking some time off. I think he needed knee surgery or something around this time. So he's taking time off. He's with the family, and so Barry comes and he shows him the footage, and of course, Foley is traumatized by it, and it's just like, I don't feel like a good dad anymore. Like, this is, and he says, earlier in the movie, he says, talking about why he does this crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be remembered as the guy that pulls a sock out of my pants.
Yeah.
Because at the time, his thing was he had a sock puppet named Mr. Sacco, and he would do the mandible claw, where you put your 2 middle fingers in someone's mouth and you pinch a nerve that is under their chin, and it's supposed to incapacitate them. And it's supposed to be a real nerve hold, invented by the guy that The Fugitive is based on. Apparently, that's the lore of it. I don't think that's true, but that's the lore of it. And at some point, he adds this sock puppet. He's getting progressively sillier. So one of the most famous things Foley ever did in the 98 King of the Ring is he gets thrown off of this Hell in a Cell. It's like a legit 20 feet. Gets thrown off of it onto a table on the concrete, gets thrown through it into the ring, and it's the career-defining moment for him, which I showed you so that you could be in the know.
Yes.
It's his career-defining moment, and he after that, they're basically like, Mick, you can't do this all the time. You need to figure something out, and they kind of go in this more comedic direction with him. And one of the things he does is he does this interaction with Vince McMahon, who Stone Cold has put him in the hospital, and he shows up with balloons and Mr. Sacco, which is just a athletic sock that he had quickly drawn a little face on. He's like, Mr. Sacco. And it gets over huge. When something gets over in wrestling, it means the fans like it. And people love it. And the next night, people are bringing Mr. Sacco's. And so it becomes this thing. And before he does the mandible claw, he puts on Mr. Sacco. And the idea is he's got it stuffed down his pants. And, where has that sock been? And puts it in people's mouths. And so his comment is like, hey, I don't want to be remembered as the guy who puts the sock on his hand. And then at the end of the movie, he's like, maybe I should be remembered as the guy that puts the sock on his hand. And true to form, he really tones down his style, true to his word. He really tones down his style after this. It's not that he doesn't do the extreme stuff anymore. It's just much less frequent. He leans into the comedy. He retires a couple years later from active competition, though, like Terry Funk, he comes back for more runs. He does a commissioner thing where he kind of gets to set the matches on screen. He's the on-screen persona that sets the matches and kind of an authority figure. And, and he does a lot of comedy, and he gets into, does a lot of skits, and really, so it's the kind of thing where you can tell, like, this really did affect him, like seeing how his kids perceived this. And also I think maybe in his mind knowing like, hey, we were going to exploit this.
Even worse. Yeah. Well, I felt a little bad at that because I thought what would make someone a bad dad is not making a mistake like that. It's doing it again.
Yeah, for sure.
So how the fact that he saw that and was affected and changed his tactics and didn't have his kid to see that again.
Yes.
That's what makes him a good dad.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to make a mistake. It's when you realize that you made a mistake and you double down on it. That's what makes you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think Mick Foley's a good dad.
I mean, do I think it was smart to bring the kids there? No. And I said as much.
Yeah.
When we were before all the stuff at ringside happened, I was like, this is not going to go well.
This is not going to go well.
But you have dreams. Sometimes you have a party and you get your different friend groups together and it doesn't work. Everybody wants their worlds to collide. And in this case, it didn't work.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think this movie works. Even if, like you said, it doesn't give you all the insights you want. It is just a fantastic time capsule. We also get to see Vince McMahon when he's trying out Droz in his full Vince McMahon mode, where Droz is about to throw up into a trash can, and Vince McMahon is going, he's gonna puke, he's gonna puke, oh, he's gonna puke.
He didn't do his Vince McMahon walk though.
Yeah, you didn't get to see the
floppiness with the suit that's like 3 sizes too big. And
fun
fact, Vince McMahon married to our current Secretary of Education.
That's true. Yes, true. Very true.
Ah.
Yeah. But yeah. Beyond the Mat. This episode's gone way over, as I suspected that it might.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I know no one is still listening to this, but yeah, Beyond the Mat. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, I think it at least offers something for you.
I bet you know who I bet is still listening is our friend Jay, because he likes wrestling.
Yeah, right.
Hi,
right.
Jay.
Yeah.
If you're still there, hi, Jay.
Yeah, correct me on anything I got wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Beyond the Mat. Just watch it. It's fun. And I can't explain at the time when it came out, like wrestling fandom felt kind of dirty, like it was something you didn't tell people about. And he mentions that in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie kind of made it okay. Be like, oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that movie. Yeah. That's pretty crazy stuff. Like it earned young wrestling fans a little bit less judgment in the eyes of their friends.
Kind of legitimized it
a bit.
Yeah. I guess what I was hoping for is something that would make, for example, my mom respect wrestling.
Yeah,
and maybe that was never going to happen. Certainly not in a 90-minute movie.
Yeah.
But
all right. Yeah, I think that's more than enough. More than enough.
Well, folks, we have thoroughly talked through this movie, although we could talk about it for quite a while longer. The wrestling lore that exists in this man's mental filing cabinet, you could not even believe. Mm-hmm. So if you have any thoughts on this, email them to Dave, not to me, but to Dave. You can reach us in a couple different ways. You can send us an email at YSMYpodcast. That's YSMY for You Show Me Yours at gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, same handle. You can DM us, or on our main feed, we have links to all the latest episodes and anything that's fun and relevant to the episodes. We have new episodes every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, there'll be a new episode. And I am hosting next week. And for the first time in a while, I don't know what we're going to watch. It'll be December. It feels like we should have something Christmassy. And I've brought everything Christmassy I can think of. So I'm a little bit at a loss. So stay tuned. It'll be a Christmas surprise. Yay. Yeah. Fun fact, this marks roughly the 5th anniversary of the podcast. We've been doing this for 5 years. We're on to 150 some episodes. I can't even keep track. So we hope that you've enjoyed the 5 years, if you've been here the whole time. Or even if you haven't, go back and listen to the old stuff. Yeah. If you haven't been around. And stay tuned for fun things in year 6, because we have some new things planned for 2026, which we'll tell you about later. In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io.